And for these newly originated trades, we need to perform some reviews to ensure that the financials we're reporting are accurate. So new trades form their own component or category of the P&L. So we need to be able to understand how that particular financial result was generated. We need to ensure it's accurate, and we need to be able to articulate the drivers of that P&L. So new trades gives us an opportunity on day one to assess a trade on its first day of existence, prior to that trade moving to a much larger portfolio of existing trades. So once this trade moves from day one to day two, it's much more difficult to identify issues with it. Perhaps when it fixes settle coupons or expires, we'll be able to identify errors with the trade, but day one is really a great opportunity to identify if there are any issues with the trade. So some of the things that we're looking for is, does the trade have a material impact on the financials? So we're going to look at thresholds in a second to understand which trades we need to review from a financial point of view. Number two, we want to make sure that what's been booked into the risk management system is an accurate reflection of the contractual risks and rewards which the desks have exposed the bank to. Number three, we want to make sure that we're correctly accounting for the asset or liability. So that means thinking about, have we met the recognition criteria? Are we classifying and measuring the asset or liability correctly? So from an IFRS perspective, when you think about amortized cost, fair value through the income statement or fair value through other comprehensive income. Number four, has the desk traded a new product? So if they have traded a new product, and presumably this has been approved in an appropriate governance stream, is this new product being processed and controlled correctly? Does it reflect appropriately in the risk management system? I.e., can you see it? Are the risks being modeled correctly? Is it being valued correctly? Does it feed the accounting rules engine? And does the accounting rules engine feed the general ledger correctly? So you need to think about it from the controls and the processes which you execute. And finally, is the booking fictitious? Is it fraudulent? Or is it real but contains some errors? So these are some of the things which you need to consider when you're reviewing your new trades. Now that we know which trades we need to review, I'm going to suggest there's 5 principles which we need to step through in order to ensure that the trade's P&L and balance sheet value is indeed accurate and okay to report. Now, most product controllers will just skip down to item number 4. So they're just going to review the drivers of the P&L. They're going to review them and validate them. They don't generally conduct these 4 steps here. I think these 4 steps here are more commonly done for structured transactions. Nonetheless, I think it's important that you consider these when you are reviewing your new trade population. So number 1, we want to make sure that the trade's booking agrees to the counterparty records. So that means the counterparty acknowledges the trade is real and the details that we've booked in our system corresponds to the details the counterparty has booked into their system. The team within the organization who looks after this process is operations, and this is via the confirmation process. Step number 2, we want to make sure that the price or the prices that we're using to revalue the trade align to fair value. So for IFRS, it's IFRS 13. For US GAAP, it's ASC 820. So this brings into question or brings into play 2 main things. Number 1, are the pricing inputs observable? So are they being published in the market? And number 2, are there any valuation adjustments which we need to make in order to align the balance sheet value to fair value? So we look at the common valuation adjustments which are performed for a trading portfolio in the valuation control module. So I suggest you check that out. Number 3, is the trade using a validated model to generate a fair value? So most of the time you won't have to consider this because the vanilla portfolios, all the financial models which are used to derive a balance sheet value are going to be validated. So what does this mean? Well, it means that the front office quants, so people who are really good at mathematics and understand financial instruments, they develop the financial models which are used by the bank's risk management system to come up with valuations. And then you have the market risk team, which also have quantitative staff, they validate these models to make sure that the implicit price or values being produced by the financial model align to the explicit price being determined by the market. And if not, it gets recalibrated. So sometimes for more exotic trades, you're going to have financial models which aren't validated. So the valuations team should have an inventory of all the models which are being used, and they should be flagging the ones which have not been validated. But most of the time, you're not going to incur this scenario. If you did, you'd have to take a valuation model reserve. Number 4, so now that you've done those first 3 checks, you're going to review the drivers of the P&L. So how did the desk make the money? Was it the sales margin? Was it intraday mark to market? Is it something else? Number 5, if there is exceptional P&L, and the bank will have thresholds around day one P&L. So for instance, if it exceeds $500,000, it may just require your manager's approval before you report the P&L. If it's greater than $1 million, may require the regional product control head's approval. If it's greater than $10 million, then it may require the global head of product control's approval. So the purpose of getting more senior people to review the P&L before you publish it is because you don't want to be publishing a P&L which you have to later retract from the desk. You want to make sure that what you issue to the desk is the actual P&L which you're comfortable with and which your superiors are comfortable with. So from a risk tolerance perspective, you can imagine the greater the amount, the more material it is. It means the more checks and risk mitigation you want around getting your financials right.